Hey everybody, Dr. K back with you here again today, and I just want to welcome you to about the most beautiful hotel I've ever seen. Over there in the distance, we've got a just bright blue green ocean. We're here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I wanted to share this experience with you. Before I get to today's video, I want to first of all just give a special shout out to Adam Steer, because this guy's awesome, and I've been having lunch, dinner, breakfast, everything with him all week long. He's got the most insightful ideas about fitness and exercise, and I can't wait to share more and more of what he's doing in his fitness business to be able to help so many people just like you in the next coming weeks. But let's get back to fat loss customization, because I know how important that is to you. You see, we talked about blood pressure response, resting heart rate, we talked about mobility versus flexibility, and don't worry, I'll give you plenty of those exercises, so you don't need to worry about that at all. In fact, you can search through the blog and you'll see all kinds of exercises that are already there for you. There's an entire series titled Flexibility versus Mobility, and I put it together. There's over 450 videos on the blog already, and it's growing all the time. So today what I want to show you is an athletic movement screen, or for example, what I recommend you do before each and every workout in order to ensure that your body's moving the way that you would like it to. This is about fat loss customization. So it's a little bright out here, pardon the sunglasses. Here's what we're going to do. The first exercise is arms overhead. I want you to squat down and back, keeping your back upright or your trunk upright, knees behind your toes, and then stand back up. Now, what you're going to see when you do this is a lot of people are going to have trouble staying upright and have to bend forward. That's a sign of tight hip flexors. Those tight hip flexors are ultimately limiting your ability to squat properly and bear weight through your hamstrings and glutes, making you quad dominant. So what we want to understand is, do you have that hip flexor tightness? Is it calf tightness, meaning that your knees slide all the way forward? Or is it something else like thoracic extension, stopping you from being able to get your arms all the way up overhead without elevating your shoulder blades? So let's take a look at this right and then each variation. This is the correct form for this exercise. Now, I always do this before any workout just to ensure my body's moving correctly. Here are the different variations you might see. Shoulder elevation suggests tight thoracic extension, or your thoracic spine or middle spine is stuck rounded or in flexion. That's one variation, so elevated shoulders. Another is bending forward at the trunk, so you're here. This suggests tight hip flexors, limiting your glutes, as I mentioned before. Another variation would be that your hips or that your knees slide forward. This suggests that you would have tight calves, and so if you elevate your heels just slightly, put them up on a mat, you'll be much safer with your exercise program, and that would be a better place to be. Again, you want to work on mobility separate from strength. Just so that you know, tight hip flexors can also draw your knees forward, so if you're noticing a combination of knees forward and trunk forward, it's probable that you have tight hip flexors and maybe tight calves from there. Unless you work on mobility from your spine down, you're not decreasing the neurological signal, meaning you're not actually giving your body an opportunity to be able to enhance the signal down one muscle at a time, starting at your glutes, to your hamstrings, to your calves. Now these nerves change names, but it's basically the same exact histological tissue. It starts out at your sciatic nerve, dives down, goes into your hamstrings, which innervates your sciatic nerve, innervates your hamstrings. Then it switches to your tibial nerve to get into your calf muscles, so on and so forth. Eventually inserts in your heel, which turns into your sural nerve. But that all starts in the exact same place in your back. So we want to work on that area first, increasing mobility there. A lot of people have hypermobility in their spine. So how do we test this? For example, when you rotate, is it all taking place in your lower back? Or can you cross your arms across your chest and rotate from your thoracic spine, meaning draw your shoulder back behind you without feeling any rotation take place here? So that's exercise number 2. We've got the overhead squat. Exercise 1, arms across your chest, trying to rotate through your shoulders, showing thoracic rotation, which allows for thoracic extension. That's exercise 2, also very important. We want to take a look at that. Then, can you keep your shoulders depressed, arms all the way back, therefore adding a little bit of contraction or shortening to your rotator cuff in this position, and then be able to raise your arms up overhead for a press position. You see, without hiking my shoulder up, if I can get to here, I just bring my arms forward. That's how high I should be pressing in my exercise program, and that's how I'm going to actually build strength in the functional range of motion, or the functional range of movement. The next step from there is understanding that that's what you're doing for strength, but in order to actually be able to target more of your muscle, you're going to have to work on this from a mobility perspective. It's not harder than just repeating the motion. You see, I can get all the way to the top, but I've practiced this. So if I can get all the way to the top without any problem or elevating either side of my shoulder, now I can press, bring my arms around all the way overhead without arching my lower back. What happens is if my shoulder starts to elevate and I try and keep going up, it ends up being extension in my lower spine. This extension leads to repeated injury and repeated use injuries such as tendonitis, ligamentous sprain, muscle strain, so on and so forth, and that's why you might not be getting the result. Remember that nociceptive or pain receptor response is ultimately going to dictate that your brain is turning off your muscle and it's decreasing the efficacy of that muscle with your exercise program. So it's important to be aware, unless you're actually working and strengthening your muscle in its functional range of motion, there's no way for you to get the same effect from your exercise program. These are just a few of the things I want you to think about, but let's just bridge over to motivation for a second. Do you have a rehearsal routine before every workout? Do you have a song that you listen to that you know charges you, that you can use at least for a month to be able to just supercharge your body and motivate it to be able to be successful with your exercise program? Do you have statements that you rehearse? Do you empower yourself? Do you tell yourself just one more rep? Or does it work better for you to focus on a specific time limit? You know, some of my clients, when they walk into the gym, I just convince them, I know today's not your day for exercise, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to warm up. If after you warm up you want to leave, your session's on me. And that's fine. And you know what happens? They warm up, they get 5 minutes in their exercise program, they're supercharged, and they're ready to go. So some people want to convince themselves of their entire exercise program. Some people want to convince themselves just of 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. Find something that's a positive experience for you, work through it, and be willing to leave. It's totally okay. Tomorrow you might do 6 minutes. The day after you might do 7. Have a pre-workout rehearsal routine. Use things like affirmations and positive self-talk, but affirmations in 5D affirmations, meaning integrating all 5 senses. Can you taste, smell, hear? You get the idea. What happens is when I'm using positive self-talk, like for example saying, I'm so happy and grateful now that I've lost 8% body fat and I can finally fit back into my pair of jeans that I didn't wear since I was a kid. Okay, well it'd be one thing to say that and to hear myself say it and to plant that in the subconscious mind, but the research doesn't hold water for that working the way that we'd like it to, unfortunately. However, I have seen something that I consider absolutely transformational, and that is integrating all 5 senses into this equation. So now, if I close my eyes, I envision that moment when I was 10 years ago fitting into that pair of jeans, but now I just grow older in my mind's eye, and I envision that moment where I finally fit in perfectly, it's snug and it doesn't bother me at all. Now I'm actually integrating many more senses into the equation. How did it fit when it went around my waist? What was it like when I zipped up the zipper? You get the idea. It's a simple imagination key like that that is ultimately going to dictate your success with your goal setting. It's really not hard to do, but it does require integration of all senses or multi-sensory affirmation use. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to do an overhead squat before every exercise program every single day. This is going to help you assess postural abnormalities. Now, in Double Edge Fat Loss, as well as my coaching program where I go through an entire customization process, I teach you exactly how to posturally assess yourself from each side of your body, left, right, top to bottom, the whole deal, okay, front to back. So what happens is you need to be able to do that. Number 2, you need to identify your area of weakness. Is it psychological, spiritual, physical, or emotional? Whichever it is, you need to be able to work on that area, but cater towards your strengths for 75% or more of your workout. Because as you cater towards your strengths, you gain positive reinforcement and positive experience with your exercise program. Okay, after that, we want to test rotation. We need to be able to see, do you have thoracic rotation, or is it all taking place in your lower back? If it's taking place in your lower back, things like rotational presses are not going to be appropriate. You're just going to have to rotate your shoulders as far as they want to go. Okay, we want to assess thoracic extension. So is your shoulder elevating? Come up to here. That's your new press height from now on until you work on mobility separately. We want to assess motivation and pre-workout routines, positive self-talk with multi-sensory affirmation use. This, my friends, is the difference between fat loss success at the rate you deserve it and fat loss success at the rate that you've experienced it. I want you to leave your comments and questions below. Provided that you give me enough feedback, which I'm sure you will, I'm looking forward to actually giving you the biggest gift I've ever given away on our blog tomorrow. I hope you have a great day, and I'm really, really looking forward to teaching you even more cool information that's going to speed up your results every single time you work out. Bye-bye.